Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 10 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Laura Spaulding-Koppel, the founder of Spaulding Decon. And for over a decade, Spaulding Decon has provided services for residential, commercial, government, and industrial properties to return them to clean, healthy, and safe properties for the occupants. From crime scene cleanup to hoarding, drug lab cleanup, mold remediation, and decontamination, Spaulding Decon has the professional experience and specialized certifications to get the job done. And we're going to talk to Laura about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 10 years now, we've been asking the Franchpreneurs who own one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Laura Spaulding-Koppel, the founder of Spaulding Decon. And for over a decade, Spaulding Decon has provided services for residential, commercial, government, and industrial properties to return them to clean, healthy, and safe properties for the occupants. Hi, Laura. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Excellent. Thank you for having me, Marty.
Oh, this is my pleasure, Laura. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Laura?
Tampa, Florida. Sunny Tampa.
Ah, nice. And I guess it's sunny down there today, isn't it?
It is.
That's fantastic. You know, you have such an interesting story, Laura. I mean, when I learned about you, and I learned about the franchise, I knew I had to have you on the show. I thought, maybe we could talk a little bit about your background, because I think your background was kind of the catalyst for Spaulding Decon, wasn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely was. Spaulding Decon, I started it 12 years ago. Right out of high school, I went into the military and then immediately went into college at the University of Tennessee. Went into law enforcement over in Kansas City, Missouri. That was kind of I put out 1 million applications. That was the first place that hired me. And worked there for 7 years, and I did undercover narcotics, undercover vice, patrol, and I had a good time doing it, but I just, became disenchanted with the lack of pay, really, and I just felt like I was going nowhere. So, I went back to school and got my MBA at night, and I thought that was going to open some opportunities and doors for me, and it really didn't. And the reason being is because I didn't have the work experience to go with it. So that's when I started researching businesses, and it just kind of happened one day on the job that I was at a homicide scene, and the lady asked me, when were we coming back to clean it up? And I thought, wow, that's a dumb question. And then I really thought about it, and I thought, no, that's actually not a dumb question because I don't know the answer to it. I didn't even think about it, and she just assumed that law enforcement did it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to look into this. And the more I researched it and looked into it, this was back in 2005, I realized, wow, no one's doing that. So are these people really left with the burden of doing that themselves? And I thought, God, that's horrific. So I thought, well, obviously I've been around, hundreds of scenes like this before. It really doesn't bother me, and let me figure out how to do this, and I'll do it for them. And that's kind of how the business came to fruition. And then in 2006, I added meth lab cleanup and hoarding cleanup services from my experience in the narcotics unit. And then, it just kind of blew up from there. I was able to quit my job and do this full time, and I still love it to this day.
Have you always known, Laura, that you wanted to go into entrepreneurship? I mean, it's kind of interesting. You had, you went into the military, you went to school, but was it ever like in the back of your mind? I mean, were you surprised, or would like your family members or people who know you be surprised that you went into entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. It was actually the opposite for me. I always had that entrepreneurship in me, and my parents convinced me that it was not a good idea. They always turned me away from it at every aspect that they had. So that's the reason that I went into law enforcement, is because, they just said, you'll never make it, that type of thing. And even when I started my company back in 2005, my family was not a fan of it. They're old school type people. They think, you get a job, you work there for 40 years, and you get a pension. It just doesn't work that way. So, so they were constantly kind of pushing it out of my head. But, ever since I was a kid, my first business, I was 10 years old, I was mowing lawns in my neighborhood. And I started to make, $200, $300 a month. And my parents were like, Jesus, that's just too much money for a kid. So they made me stop doing it. So it kind of just started from there.
That's great. It's a great story. It reminds me a lot of my parents. My mom always wanted me to work for the post office. I mean, ever since I was a young kid, she said, you'll always have a job if you work for the post office. She didn't want me to go to school. She said, just be a civil servant, and you'll always have a paycheck, but it's something. Exactly. But it was something in you, that drive, that motive, that really, pushed you into this, which I think is fantastic. At what point did you decide, Laura, that, you could franchise this concept?
Well, that actually came kind of by accident. That was never really the thought. Right around 2012, we started to get some national contracts, and I was very happy to kind of subcontract those out to my colleagues in different states. And initially it started working out pretty well, and then, it started not working out so well. They weren't either returning phone calls, they weren't turning in the required paperwork or photographs. So, we were constantly chasing them, and I thought there's got to be a better way to bring all of this under one umbrella and make sure that the training is consistent. And my lawyer said, you need to franchise this business. No one else is doing it.
Right.
So I thought about it, and I wasn't ready in 2012 to do that. So we finally did it in 2015.
That's terrific. And, in looking at the history of Spaulding Decon, Laura, I mean, and you've added a number of services. It seems like, as the business evolved, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I thought that was interesting, how you kind of added to your product line of services.
Yeah, I really did. And, initially it just started out with crime scene cleanup, and then the drug lab cleanup aspect came because of the, I was in Missouri at the time, which was the top 5, one of the top 5 in the country for busted meth labs. So that's kind of how that came about. And then one of my national clients said, hey, I've got an extreme hoarding situation here, and I don't know who else to call. And I figure somebody that does crime scenes can easily tackle this. And I thought, well, hell, I'm the type of person, I don't say no to any type of job. I'll figure it out. So that was my first meth lab, and my first hoarding job, and I just fell in love with it from there. And those were the 3 main staples for many years. And then in 2008, we added mold remediation. And again, that was from customer request. We already had the equipment. We just got the training, certification, and licensing to do it. And then with our franchise opportunity, we added the real estate component to we're buying these customers' houses as is and allowing them to walk away and have new beginnings.
And there's a technique to it as well, Laura. I've seen you in another interview. I was watching your interview on YouTube. You're talking that, there is a technique to it, because it is a sensitive situation, isn't it? I mean, the business that you're in, I mean, it's a very sensitive situation and really has to be handled with care, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And, that's why when we're vetting franchisees, we have to kind of do an extra component, more of an emotional review and an emotional test on them to make sure that they can handle this type of scenes and handle these type of peoples in these situations.
How does technology play a role in your business today, Laura, or is technology even implemented in your business? Yeah,
so right before we franchised, I was looking into what could we do to streamline this and get rid of the paper and kind of help franchisees integrate everything all in one. So we have a software, a CRM of sort that has been customized for us, and it allows our franchisees to do all of their estimates on the iPad right in front of the customer. It allows them to take payment. It allows them to take their photos. It attaches it as a permanent record to their file. So we constantly have a record of everything, and everything is all under one umbrella, so the franchisee can see what's going on with their employees and what jobs, and they can manage it even from vacation. So that's been a real game changer for us, getting rid of the paper and really making everything electronic.
It's probably a lot different too, I guess, I imagine, Laura, from when you first began, doing your first couple of jobs to, where it is today, is technology certainly making it more efficient, which I really think is fantastic. And, you're in an industry too, which, I'm not even sure if there's any hard numbers on it, Laura, because as you said earlier, this really is something different. But I imagine it's a pretty big industry to be safe, isn't it?
Yeah, when I first launched the franchise, we had a consultant tell us that, this is a $346 million industry. So apparently there's some data there somewhere that I was given. So, we fall under kind of the restoration genre, but we don't do, fire and water restoration, but we tend to fall under that umbrella. We just provide a completely different set of services.
What's been one of the challenging questions we asked to our guests, Laura, and you probably have 100 answers for this question, but what's one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since launching Spaulding Decon? I mean, I'm sure you probably have 100 stories you could tell, but does anything stand out over the course of time?
I think the whole thing has been a life-changing experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. I started this company with a $15,000 home equity loan because I didn't even have a banker, that would believe in me, that would give me a business loan. So I lied and said that I needed windows for my house. And I took that $15,000 and I bought my equipment. I got some training and certification. And here we are 12 years later, and we were able to grow it to a multi-million-dollar business. So I'm very proud of that, but it's not been an easy road.
The majority of our listeners, Laura, I mean, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them want to go into franchising. What types of characteristics then do you look for in your franchisees?
That's been a learning process for us too, because we're very much still an emerging brand.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first thought, we're going to franchise, I thought, well, how do you pick somebody? And I thought, well, it can't be possibly that hard. It's just if somebody has, the financial wherewithal to do it and the desire. Little did I know that there's a lot more involved in choosing,
of course.
The correct person. So we're really looking for somebody who's a risk taker, somebody who's ambitious and understands that, you have to spend money to make money. It's just not going to happen overnight. And then the emotional component is, we need somebody who has empathy, someone who can really relate to these people in their time of grief, and somebody who really has a desire to change people's lives.
Yeah, and that empathy factor is, I imagine, as we were saying earlier, Laura, important, because it is such a sensitive situation. I think it does take a special type of person, doesn't it?
It sure does.
That's something. What is the training like, Laura? I mean, once, you decide you like them, they like you, and they want to come aboard as a franchisee, do they typically come out to your headquarters then? Is that how it works? I imagine there's a lot involved in training.
Yeah, there really is, and we try to make it fun too, because we want them to learn, but you're not just sitting in a classroom. So it's 7 days. We have a 14,000 square foot facility in Tampa, where we have a nice classroom with audio, video, where we do video trainings, we do lectures, and then we have a hands-on facility as well, where we have 3 10-by-10 rooms that are mock living rooms and bedrooms, and we set it up as a normal crime scene, and we use pig's blood to do the simulation, and they get actual hands-on experience there, and then we take them with our crews, and they do live jobs as well, and they do estimating, and it's drinking out of a fire hose for 7 days.
Sure.
It's a lot of information.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. But it does sound fun and interesting at the same time,
it's a lot of fun.
to be part of that. So that's fantastic. You've been doing this a long time now, so you could probably describe, Laura, I mean, what is a typical day like as a Spaulding Decon franchisee? From morning, I imagine every day could be a little bit different, based on the situation, but what's that like?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about this business is that, I'm not a monotonous type person.
Mm-hmm.
This is not your 9-to-5 cubicle type boring job.
Right.
Every single day is different. You could be, cleaning an unattended death one day, and then a meth lab the second day, and then a hoarding job the third day. But we teach our franchisees that when you're not working an actual job, you're out marketing, because marketing is the lifeblood of our business. And, being in a niche business, we have an awareness issue. So we want to make sure that everyone in their territory knows who they are and what they do should the need arise.
Which is great, I think, Laura, because there's a lot of people, I think, doing the show such a long time now that, they don't want to get into that, as you said, the monotonous routine, like if you're working for a sub shop, you know what I mean? And you're making the same subs every single day, it probably does get a little bit, or it gets boring, for lack of a better word, but I think that's really what, keeps it interesting in being a Spaulding Decon franchisee is that, every day could be a little bit different and the time is different and all those other things, which I think really adds to, it adds to the character of the franchise, which I think is terrific. What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise, Laura? Because as you know, there's a lot out there today. I mean, there's like over 3,000 systems. And we find that, doing this show such a long time now, most of our listeners don't even know where to begin because they're so overwhelmed with so many different types of franchise opportunities.
Yeah, I would tell a potential franchisee, figure out what field you want to be in first. If it's food, then you can narrow that down from there. But when you're thinking about it, don't look at, I'm going to be an instant millionaire. It takes work, regardless of if you're in an established brand or you're in an emerging brand. But you need to think, what are you going to be comfortable and still excited about doing in the next 10 years? That's how you want to view and choose what you want to do with your life. And, go from there. You can start narrowing it down by which field do you want to be in. If food isn't for you and you want a service-based business, then there you go. That narrows down, probably down to $1,500 at that point.
Right, absolutely. That's terrific. No, I think that's fantastic advice. What about the location, Laura, for your franchisees? Is there an office, and how much space is actually required for an office?
So our franchisees are really choosing a warehouse office combination, and they can be around 1,000 square feet. I think the largest space we have is like 2,500, and that's really just to store your vehicle, your equipment, your chemicals, and your waste. So, and then the office, they choose to kind of, not work from home, and they want to have an office there, and that way they integrate with their employees and kind of just develop a rapport with them. So, and warehouse space is not expensive at all. It's definitely not, retail.
It's true. You don't have to be on Main Street, USA either, do you, Laura?
Not at all.
To have this kind of business, which I think is really, helps a lot in setting up the business. So where do you see Spaulding Decon, like maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, Laura?
Our goal now is to sell 20 franchises a year. So in 5 years, we should have, 100 locations. Wow. So that's our goal right now. And, as we are growing with franchisees, we're adding more support staff here in corporate to facilitate that growth. So we're really excited about all the interest that we're getting. I know we're a niche business, but people are just super, super interested in this type of business because it's just different every day and it's exciting.
That's terrific. What's the best way, Laura, for our listeners to get more information on the Spaulding Decon as a service and, of course, the franchise opportunity itself? Are there any websites that they can go to?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the franchise opportunity, it's SpauldingDeconFranchise.com.
Okay.
And then for the service, it's just SpauldingDecon.com, and our number is 866-99-DECON.
That's fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed having you on this show, Laura. When I first learned about this, I said, wow, this is a really interesting concept. We haven't really had anything like this on the show in 10 years. So, it's great to have something different on the show, and I'd already like to invite you back next year as you continue to grow, because I think this is a wonderful franchise opportunity.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Marty. I really appreciate it.
This has been my pleasure, Laura, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822. Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott, the President of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. Well, one of the shows I strongly recommend listening to if you're an aspiring entrepreneur is Stop Riding the Pine. And the show is hosted by Jamie J. And Jamie is an amazing interviewer. He speaks with entrepreneurs on a variety of topics. And I had the pleasure of appearing on Stop Riding the Pine. And one of the topics that Jamie and I were focusing on were key elements to successful franchising. So this particular clip of Great Quote in Franchising, we're going to call this There's No Creativity in Franchising, and we're going to explain why. What do I want this franchise to do for me? Why are you considering getting into franchising? Because, a lot of times people that get into franchising, Jamie, I think probably should not get into franchising. They'll go into it for the wrong reasons. Well, they'll see the success of one franchise and they'll say, God, I wish I owned one of these. But that doesn't mean that they should necessarily buy into a Dunkin' Donuts franchise. And sometimes they go into the wrong franchise opportunity. So they might be suited for a franchise, but they're getting into the wrong franchise, So I think you really have to be open, to all the different categories that are out there. Again, going deep within yourself and asking yourself, what do I want this franchise to do for me? If you don't want to work on weekends, then don't get into one of these like children franchises where they're real busy on Saturdays or Sundays. So you have to say, what do I want it to do for me? And you ask yourself those deep-rooted questions.
Perfect. I think that's huge. It's very important for people to not jump into something.
Absolutely, because it's expensive too, Jamie. I mean, a lot of times, you're signing a 10-year contract, which is 10 years of your life. It's a long time, isn't it? I mean, it's
oh my gosh.
Like, I won't compare it to the sanctity of marriage, but sometimes it goes further than that, I mean, having that 10-year commitment, so it is a very big commitment financially. It's a big commitment. I think you have to have the support from your family, whether it's your wife and your children, because the first year, typically, from what I've learned in doing this show such a long time now, is it takes a long time to get it off the ground. Even if it is a Subway franchise or a very recognizable brand name, you're still going to be putting a lot of work into it. So you might be missing that time from your family. And sometimes people get into franchising for the wrong reasons as well. Maybe they'll have a bad day at work, and they say, "Oh, I hate my boss."
I'm out of here.
I want to be my own boss. And again, franchising may not be the best alternative for that type of person. There's so many different types of levels of entrepreneurship. Franchising is just one. I mean, you could just initially start your own business where you get to be the creator. There's no, I hate to say this, but there's no creativity in franchising sometimes. I mean, you have to follow somebody else's creation, and that's okay for some people. For me, it wouldn't be. And I assume in getting to know you over time, you might have trouble with that as well, because again, you like to create.
I couldn't get outside of the structure, but I understand why that would be a good thing, because they've been there, they've done that. You won't make the same mistakes that the original franchisor made, because they found the solutions along the way, and that's part of the attraction for franchise.
Exactly. I published. It sounds like I'm bragging, Jamie, but I just got one of published in.
You deserve it.
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Jamie J. of Stop Riding the Pine, all you have to do is go to stopridingthepine.com, and you can hear the whole podcast. And lastly, we just want to thank everyone for making this podcast such a big success. It's hard to imagine that we've been doing it now 10 years ago. It was one of the things I was talking about with Jamie on the show, is the longevity of the show. Is what started out to be a 1-month project turned out to be 10 years. So I just want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast and making it such a success. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
At CubeSmart, we believe in storage that puts you first. That's why our team of storage experts is there for you in person, on the phone, or online to help you find the space you need. Whether you're relocating your family, reorganizing your space, or reinventing your business, we put you first. That's why when you're ready, you can complete your rental in person or from the comfort of your home and move in with ease. Get storage that puts you first with CubeSmart Self-Storage. Rent online and move in today.
The Honda you want is here, so drive in the moment with the versatile Honda CR-V or Accord, all from the 2023 Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com Best Value brand. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.9% APR on a 2024 Honda Accord and a 2.9% APR on a 2024 CR-V.
See dealer for financing details based on 2023 brand image awards from Kelley Blue Book. Visit KBB.com for more information.